Oh boy, this is getting interesting. It's getting interesting. The Yankees are now moving on, and they've begun their pivot. Number 22, which is how we will refer to that guy from now on, he's gone. He used the Yankees as a ploy for money. Never was a true Yankee. And now the Yankees have been forced to pivot. They're forced to enter Moneyball mode for a big market team, right? Where they're trying to build this, fill the rest of the roster out, and probably trying to stay below that Cohen tax. So, how can the Yankees improve? That's what we're going to get into in this episode. We'll talk about Max Fried. We'll talk about a couple other things too. Episode 758 of BD4. Welcome to the show. Things are starting to get interesting.
Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive into left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? Even Chenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
Take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Nova.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again. But God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Well, how can the New York Yankees improve and replace he who shall not be named and remain under that fourth tax? Right? Because that's what that's the mode we're now in. Now I'll play along. Now I'll play along into this penny pinching mode. Okay, I didn't want to do it before because I wanted them to spend at all costs. Clearly, I was wrong. They're not going to do that. So now we have to figure out how to play Moneyball. And I'm not going to lie, man. Maybe it's just like the human nature. But like, I'm starting to kind of talk myself into how this can work and all that. I still got mixed feelings. I don't know if the Yankees can win with Judge being their best player just because of what happens every postseason with them. I always thought there was a path to do it. There was always a sound plan B to where they could get it done. But what I'm having trouble with is I have approximately zero faith in Cashman. Okay. That's where I struggle. Which is ironic for like the anti-Soto people, or the folks who didn't want to bring him back. It's kind of ironic because like most of you are also not Cashman fans. You're big Cashman critics. And so all of a sudden you're comfortable with letting Cashman sign multiple guys and make all these decisions and bring in 4, 5, 6 guys to fill out the roster. I always thought that was kind of funny and ironic. But the post number 22 world has begun. And last night, I'm hanging around, just finished up writing an article for work, and I don't know, saw a notification where I was on Instagram or something, and I saw, or Twitter, I don't remember. And I saw that it became official. That the Yankees made their big splash in the rotation. They got their big rotation arm, getting the left-handed ace from the Atlanta Braves, who is a free agent, and they signed Max Fried to an 8-year contract worth $218 million. Now, that is a ton of money for a 30-year-old starting pitcher. That's not great. The good thing is the AAV isn't bad. I think he's only earning 27 point something million dollars a year. That's manageable. And, the spin I'm trying to put on it is that, like, you had to believe, because Toronto, but also Boston was in the mix, and Boston's trying to get starting pitching badly right now. They're looking at Burns, everything. You had to believe for the Yankees to get this done, they had to add that extra year in there. That's what I think. Also, in this market, man, listen, the market that we're in, you're not getting Fried on a 5-6 year deal anymore. That's not happening. Okay? And let's be honest, man. Let's be 100% honest. Maybe I'm crazy, but Max Fried's contract 8 years from now is not exactly something that's keeping me up at night. How about we capitalize on this current window, and, like, I don't know, make winning a World Series what we focus on here? Putting together a World Series roster? We kind of just lost the greatest power-hitting lefty of our generation. 2033 is not exactly on my mind right now. So, I don't care. To be honest, I don't care about the 8 years. I really don't care. I will say, if you're worried about something, this was a good point I saw John Boy make on Instagram last night. You're hoping that this Max Fried deal wasn't because, you're hoping it was because the Yankees like Fried. And you're hoping it's not because they're worried about Garrett Cole's elbow at 34, 35 years old, whatever he is. That's the one thing I'm thinking about. I hope it's not like, well, if Cole doesn't last, we have our 1B. I'm really hoping Max Fried is just them being confident, or not so confident maybe, in Rodon, and having, Fried step in here, and nothing about Garrett Cole. Because that would be scary. But if there's one thing that's very optimistic, is Max Fried is a good pitcher, right? He moves Rodon down in the pecking order to a game 3. He steps up and he fills that game 2 slot. And he's a damn good pitcher. I mean, you can spin it all you want. He gets consistent results year to year. He's become one of the better left-handed pitchers in baseball. If you're watching the video format on YouTube or Spotify right now, you could see on the screen, I've got the graphics up. I've got the analytics and the traditionals up on the screen here. This is a guy who gets a ton of ground balls. So I think the rest of this offseason, you're going to see the Yankees try to address their infield defense, make that a priority. But he's a guy with great secondary stuff too. He's got a very deep pitch mix. He's got one of the best curveballs in the game. All right, from a lefty or a righty. It's got great spin. The movement on it is fantastic. He's got a 12-6 drop. It's got a nice slow velocity to it. It hovers around 74 to 76 miles an hour. Gets a lot of soft contact with it. He misses barrels. The numbers on the curveball are very good. Low batting average, low slug. It's his most frequently used off-speed pitch, the second most frequently used pitch behind his four-seam fastball. So he's got an excellent curveball. His two-seam is a very good pitch. It's labeled as a sinker, but it's more of a two-seamer, a traditional two-seamer. It's his third most used pitch. It's got a ton of arm side run to the left-handed batter's box. It sits 94, generates a lot of ground balls, great movement. It misses some bats. That's a good pitch. I love me a good two-seamer. Max Fried's, you watch that thing. I've seen some of the highlights on, that pitching ninja is throwing out there. Really good two-seamer. And he's got a changeup and sweeper that he likes to throw to righties. The changeup is his 4th most used pitch, and the sweeper his 5th most used pitch. And then he throws variations of it, slider, curveballs, like different types of them. But the 4-seamer is a pitch that he usually it's his primary weapon, but he uses it to mainly set up his off speed with. Right, he'll occasionally challenge you with it. It sits around 94 as well, but that's a pitch he likes to set up the off speed with. Goes to the curveball right after it. Uses the changeup. He's a good pitcher. He's more of a pitcher and not a thrower, which is good. It's going to help him stay healthy. You'll age well that way. 5 of his last 6 seasons, he's been pretty healthy. The negatives, I would say, he's not a guy, his fastball velocity, he doesn't have strikeout stuff. I would say it's more mediocre than bad. Like he's, doesn't get a ton of swing and miss. The lack of swing and miss does scare me a little bit against the American League East. It does scare me a little bit when we're talking how he's going to fare against playoff lineups. Because his stuff isn't overwhelming at all. And his playoff resume is not great. He's been very up and down as a starting pitcher in the postseason. He had some problems last year, especially. But again, the good thing for a 30-year-old, though, is that he doesn't have this lights-out fastball. You can look at that as a good thing because he's got the great secondary stuff. So when the fastball starts to go, he's still going to have his off-speed and breaking stuff. So that's a positive. Now, he's had some issues. The one thing I'm keeping an eye on, he's been pretty healthy, but the last couple of seasons, he's missed some time with a forearm injury, and forearm is never a word you want to hear. It's a little bit scary. Last year he missed time in July. 2023, he missed, I think, May, June, and July with the forearm issue. So the forearm thing is something I'm keeping an eye on, especially a guy on this contract. But all in all, I do like the Max Fried signing. I think it's going to help this rotation a lot. You look at the Yankee staff, Garrett Cole. Again, I'm a little bit worried about his age and his health. Is the consistency going to be the same? I don't know if he's still Cy Young Garrett Cole, but I think I'm hoping the Yankees manage him a little more in the upcoming season. Maybe he's more a 175 innings pitch guy if he could stay healthy, as opposed to 250 or 230. Maybe he's not going to post, a sub 3 anymore. He'll be closer to 320, 330 ERA type of guy. I just hope they manage him. They manage him to where he's ready and he's healthy enough to pitch and let fully loose in the playoffs. And then you get to Carlos Rodon. I'm not worried about Carlos Rodon as far as the regular season goes. I think he's got to do his job. He'll eat innings. He'll get punch outs. He'll stay healthy, knock on wood. And then after that, the rest of the rotation after Fried, Cole, Rodon, it's a bunch of guys who now become expendables. Right? I mean, you're talking about guys like Luis Gil and Clark Schmidt. They're very expendable. You could trade them for a quality bat, which we'll talk more about in a second. You talk about guys like Cortez and Stroman. They're guys you could just use in a salary dump. It's less about the return and more about, clearing payroll. So, yeah, like what is next for this Yankees team? Because you're hoping it's a bat, right? It's probably going to be a bat. Second or third base, depending on where Jazz goes next year. Outfield, and then first base, right? That's probably going to be next, in my opinion. I think they're going to go after first base. There are so many names out there that are floating around this offseason, whether it's free agents or trade targets. You got guys like Bellinger. I'm intrigued with Cody Bellinger. I know he's not beloved by a lot of baseball fans, Yankees fans. They don't love what he brings. The Savant page is not great. But I also look at it like he played at Wrigley Field last year, and you bring Cody Bellinger to Yankees Stadium, and I don't see why he couldn't put up an 800 OPS or close to a 250 average and hit 25 bombs. I don't see why that's impossible. He's done that plenty of times before. Why can't he do that as a lefty inside Yankee Stadium? I think he fits in Yankee Stadium. You know, you got the history with Clay Bellinger. I feel like the Yankees have been linked to Cody for a while now, so I feel like this was meant to happen. He's a good power bat. He's a good contact bat. He's a capable outfielder and first baseman defensively. And he's still in his prime years, right? He's 29, 30 years old. So I don't think he would demand a ton of assets. I think this is a deal you could get done. But I think a guy that I'm even more intrigued with is somebody who you're hearing as a legitimate possibility now, and that's Christian Walker. You know, Christian Walker, I feel like, is everything Yankees fans thought they were going to get from Rizzo, but from the right side of the plate. You know, he brings you slugging. He brings you on base. You know, this is a guy who's going to consistently sit around 250, 30 homers, 800 OPS for you. That's what we kind of got at the beginning from Rizzo before he tapered off. He's got a lot of pull power, but capable of going to the short porch. You know, and then on the other side, you talk about elite first base defense. He's probably better than anybody in the game at first base. This guy's got a glove. The only concerns regarding Christian Walker is, he is 34 years old. By the end of camp, he'll be 34. And you worry about the oblique. Right? He has missed time with the oblique injury. You hope that doesn't bark up because that's something that could take you out a while. He's also a right-handed bat. So if you do add someone like Christian Walker, you still want to add a lefty bat afterwards. Kyle Tucker. But, because say you add Walker, your only non-righties on this in this lineup, Jason, who's a switch bat, and then your two lefties are Wells and Chisholm. That's it. So 3 guys who don't bat primarily from the right side. So you still want to add another lefty in there. You go to the relief pitching market. The bullpen is something I've talked about, how I want the Yankees to get some more firepower in there, some more swing and miss. Devin Williams would be a trade I'm intrigued with. He's definitely an option. Tanner Scott is a guy I wanted them to trade for at the deadline last year. This is a signing I would not be opposed to. I know people are hesitant to pay relievers. I don't give a shit. They're important in today's game. Johnny Lasagna. I saw a report yesterday that the Yankees and Loizaga were looking to make a reunion, and it's them and the Mets right now. I would think about bringing him back. I know he's got injury history. He's almost guaranteed to get hurt at some point. But talk about firepower. This is a guy who's dotting 99-mile-an-hour two-seamers in on the hands. Like, filthy pitcher who can he's very effective against righties. Starting pitching, I don't know if Cashman's done adding to the rotation. I don't think the Yankees are getting Burns. That's a lot of money, a lot of risk, especially now with Fried. Garrett Crochet is a guy I've talked about before. I'm very intrigued with him. This is a controllable starting pitcher. He's still on, I think, at least 2 more years under control. He's got great stuff, excellent stuff. He's gotten results year to year. He is an injury risk. You worry about the workload. He's never, pitched a ton of innings. And, his trade value has definitely skyrocketed now that Fried signed that contract. Whoever is over there in Chicago is kind of, they got a shit-eating grin on their face right now. So if the Yankees were to make a trade for Crochet, they probably have no assets left. For somebody who I want to talk about in just a second, if they trade for Crochet. So that's maybe going to be a hard pass. The Japanese starter, the dude who dominated in the WBC a couple years ago, Sasaki, that's a guy who throws 100 plus. Unfortunately, I do think that guy's a Dodger. They have the clear pipeline right now to Japanese talent with Otani, with Yamamoto. I think he's just going to go play with his buddies. But then you go back to the plate, and there are some other bats that a lot of people are intrigued with. Nolan Arenado has been a name that's floating around there. Fortunately, by the way the Yankees were talking on Yes Network Hot Stove last night, it seems like they're out on him. And I say fortunately because I'm just not an Arenado fan. Asked me 3-4 years ago, yeah. Now it just kind of feels like Donaldson. It feels like Josh Donaldson all over again. This is a guy who's just not the same player. His bat has taken a steep decline. There's no more power left in the bat. I don't want an aging, declining Nolan Arenado unless the Yankees do some significant things in other areas. Like I feel like if Arenado was to come here, that would be like the big move, and I don't want that. What's the kid's name? The San Diego infielder, Kim. He's a very light bat, but he's an elite glove. So if you're talking about infield defense with Fried coming over here as a ground ball pitcher, those are some guys. Arenado, Kim, Paul Goldschmidt, although he's kind of also washed and even older. Don't want him. Other names, Pete Alonso. Listen, Pete Alonso is... I know he's a productive hitter, and this is silly of me because I'm one who just cares about winning usually. I would get so much shit from my buddies. That would feel like the classic little brother move. The Yankees would never be the little brother, but if they made a deal for Alonso, I got to tell you what, the optics of that would look like shit. After everything that went on with Soto, for the Yankees to pivot and Alonso be the... Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please. Santander and Teoscar Hernandez, they're two names that I'm not very interested in, but they've been floating around. I feel like both of them, they're both power bats, 30, 40 home run pop. Santander is a switch bat, but both of them I feel like just don't fit defensively. Neither of the two are good outfielders. They're both very poor outfielders. So you're not able to move Judge back to right field and Dominguez to center that way. I don't, and Teoscar's a right-handed hitter too. Alex Bregman's a name I wouldn't hate, to be honest. A lot of Yankees fans don't want him. The Yankees seem to be out on him though. That's also something I think I saw. And Correa. They've tried going after him twice. I wouldn't hate it. I was listening to Dan Roark, and he made a good point. If you go after Correa, you can slide him over to third base to keep him healthy. Keep Volpe at shortstop. Correa's a guy who's got great power. Kind of has that cockiness that you like. He's a postseason performer. The injury history does worry you. He's always hurt. And you look at that contract. That is a bad contract that the Twins are trying to get rid of for a reason, because he's owed $37 million next year, $33 million in 2026, $32 million in 2027, $32 million in 2028, and then for 4 years in a row after that, he's on vesting options. If he makes 575 plate appearances in 2029, he gets $25 million. If he makes 550 plate appearances in 2030, he gets $20 million. And then he gets $15 million in 2031 if he makes 525 plate appearances. And then in 2032, he gets $10 million if he makes 502 plate appearances. So if he fails to reach those numbers, then Minnesota has team options on him. So he's officially an unrestricted free agent in 2033. But it's a trade I would consider. But again, I'm trying to keep my trade assets for one specific guy that's been popular. It's a name that's come up lately, and it's been constantly trending on Yankees Twitter since. And that guy is Kyle Tucker, who I am very fucking intrigued with. I think the Yankees need to make a hard run at getting Kyle Tucker. This is a guy I think they absolutely must go after. I don't have his graphics on the screen, but this is a kid who obviously plays with the Houston Astros, but he's in the final year of arbitration before he hits the market. So you have to believe that Dana Brown over in Houston doesn't want to lose this kid for nothing. He probably wants to get a haul. And his value also skyrocketed after the number 22 contract. He's a guy who you can bring him into the... He fits like a damn glove on this Yankees team. Star player in the Bronx. A kid who's entering his prime at 27 years old. He's youth. You're bringing in youth. You know, he's a complete player. A complete baseball player. You talk about more baseball players on the Yankees, right? Less Torreses, less Soto types, less Stantons. Like, you want well-rounded baseball players? That's Kyle Tucker, who brings you great value on the diamond. Unlike number 22. Can you tell I'm bitter? He's a gold glove left fielder. You know, the eye test passes it. The metrics have rated him as a very above average left fielder in the past. I know recent seasons he's seen a drop off, but you put him in left field at Yankee Stadium, I feel like that'd be perfect because, again, you're able to slide Dominguez back to his natural spot in center, and you can move Judge to right field, which is perfect for him at this age. You know, Kyle Tucker would be great. This is a lefty bat with low whiff rates and high power, right? The traditional numbers are excellent. He'll hit around 280. He'll give you an 850 plus OPS, at least. He'll hit you 30 plus homers. You know, you go to his StatCast. That's excellent. I mean, everything on that page is red. You look at those Savant charts, year after year after year, everything is red. Barrel percentage, chase rate, whiff rate, walk rate, K rate, the square up percentage, the launch angle sweet spot, the expected numbers, everything is red on there. They're not all, 99, 100 percentile like number 22, but a lot of it's like 80 percentile and higher. I mean, he's a fantastic player. He's got great plate discipline. He's a really good base runner. He's not fast, but he's very smart on the bases. And if we're talking about replacement players, his WAR per 162 is 5.9. Number 22's WAR per 162 is 6.3. So that's about as close to a replacement for number 22 as it gets. I think they have to be all in on this guy. Everybody, everything needs to be on the table. The question is, does Houston move him right now, or do they wait for the deadline to feel it out if they want to be buyers or sellers and try to get something from him? They're probably better off doing something now. They probably get a better return on investment if they traded him right now as opposed to trading him when he becomes a 2-month rental. And, you're hearing some people talk about, I don't think Houston's ever going to do a deal with the Yankees. I don't think that shit matters. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think any of that matters. Rivalries, I don't think impact trades. For the right deal, I think shit like that can happen. Maybe it's different because of the cheating scandal. I don't know. The Yankees gave them, I don't want to say Caleb Ferguson was Kyle Tucker, but I don't think that stuff matters. I never thought the Knicks and Nets would do a deal again. They hadn't traded since the 80s, and the Nets ended up giving the Knicks their franchise player. So, I don't know. Maybe that's a whole different scenario, but I'm not worried about that. 1 second. Totally forgot I had coffee in front of me. And I think he's plenty worth it. The package would be hefty. Of course it would be. It's Kyle Tucker. It would definitely include Luis Heel. It'd probably include one of Jones or Dominguez. And then maybe you're throwing in Beater. Maybe you're adding Hampton to that. Like, it's going to be a heavy package. That's going to hurt. I definitely think it's going to be Heel and one of Dominguez or Jones. Now, Jones's value has definitely plummeted after last season's struggles. He wasn't great in the minors. He was very streaky. The K rate went up. So maybe Jason Dominguez is in that package with Luis Heel and Hampton and Beater. Because Luis Heel's value is very high. He just won Rookie of the Year in the American League. This is a kid who throws 98 miles an hour. He's got decent secondaries with a change in the slider. He's 26 years old, 27 in July. He's under team control for a little bit. So Luis Heel's value is very good. And then there's just no reason to keep both Jones and Dominguez. You don't have to. Maybe Clark Schmidt is in a package. The Yankees have a surplus of starting pitchers to be able to get this done. And Kyle Tucker is not really going to take a big payroll hit. He's on an expiring $17 million deal this season. So, you worry about the extension and re-signing him after that. Get this done first. Get this done first. I'm worrying about winning a championship. I'm not worrying about next year. Let's just wait. I cannot ever imagine myself ever being in that mentality of like, let's wait until next. That's the craziest thing in the world to me. Like, I can never imagine myself having that little hunger to win. Get him now. We're trying to win a World Series this upcoming year. So, worry about that stuff later. What's he going to command? Is it going to be $300 million? Is it going to be $400 million? I don't know. Worry about that after. Kyle Tucker would be a great add if you're trying to do a quick pivot to make this 2025 team a World Series contender. You currently look at the Yankees, and in terms of their finances, without number 22, they can get super creative here and still remain under the super tax. Right now, I think I saw, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure after getting freed, the Yankees are around $250 million payroll, give or take. So that's over the first CBT, and that's it. The first figure is 241, which gives you a 20% tax on anything you spend after. The second figure is 261 million, 30% tax. The third figure is 281 million with a 63% tax about. And the fourth figure, which is the one they added, that's the Cohen tax, it's 301 million. Which, again, if the Yankees payroll is around 250, that gives them wiggle room of about $50 million, give or take. And, man, imagine if they can move a contract, if they can offload Stroman's $18 million next year, before next season. If they can offload Stroman's $18 million this offseason, man, that would be so ideal. There's no spot for him in the rotation anyway. They clearly didn't value him at the end of last year. Maybe Nestor Cortez's $8 million gets moved. That can help. But, yeah, so I'm looking at this Yankees team, and ideally, I think Kyle Tucker must be your top target in left field. And then maybe look at Walker or Belly to play first base for you. Walker seems most likely. The Yankees are heavily in on him, and they don't have the assets to do both Bellinger and Tucker. You go to the relief pitching market. I think, one of Estevez or Scott or Devin Williams, who would be a trade. Have them come in here and close games for you or pitch somewhere in relief late. Maybe you don't have to do that right now. Maybe you can trust the Yankees building their bullpen. But if it's true where the Yankees are currently sitting at 250, it's possible to add 3 of those 6 names that I just mentioned and remain under the Cohen tax. It's possible. They probably have to move a contract, but Tucker's on a $17 million expiring deal next year. Walker is projected to get anywhere from $20 to $20 million AAV. Bellinger's on the books for $28 million next year. Devin Williams is making $8 million next year. Tanner Scott's projected to make double that. Estevez is projected to make 10 to 15 million-ish next year. That means if the Yankees grab one of those relievers, one of Belly or Walker to play first, and they acquire Kyle Tucker to play left field, and they're still looking for a third baseman, remember that, they would most likely need to offload a contract or two. I don't think they're ever going to get rid of DJ's $15 million, so I'm crossing that out. But I do think it's possible to dump salary with Marcus Stroman's $18 million. I think Cortez's $8 million could help you get something off. You could try to move Grisham's $5 million. Even if it's just for, even if the return is a $5 gift card to Taco Bell. It's just about dumping salary, shedding payroll. So, and that's if, that's if Hal wants to stay below 301, which I feel like he does, because I feel like that was a big part in keeping in letting Soto walk, not just long term, but the payroll hit for this year, for next year. So for those who don't know, if you exceed the fourth CBT, it's a 100% tax on everything you spend. So if you go over that 301 figure and you're paying, let's say, a Christian Walker, you're paying not just let's say he gets $25 million next year, you're paying that, but you're also paying, because it's 100%, an additional $25 million to the league. So $50 million for Christian Walker, and in addition to that, with the Cohen tax, I think you lose some draft picks. I think it's less international bonus pool money, and I think you take a hit in terms of revenue sharing. There are some penalties there. So, they can get creative, though. Move some of these contracts. If you want to really improve this team, and, move some of these contracts. Now, in terms of second or third base, they have options. Do they spend on Correa or somebody else? Do they bring in Arenado, or do they go in-house? With that infield. Do they get Durbin to play second base, or do they use Cabrera at second or third base? Do they wait for the trade deadline to really make a move there? Is that someone Nestor or Grisham can get you, or Stroman? But there we go. I think we just fixed the Yankees. You're welcome. Doing these types of moves can keep you a contender. It keeps that lineup balanced with righties and lefties. It's still very potent with power. It's much better defensively. And then you go into your rotation, you added an ace. You have a lot more swing and miss in your bullpen if you can get a reliever or two. I would love to get some development and some next steps next year from the Yankee youth. Austin Wells. If Austin Wells can take a next step, if Anthony Volpe can take that leap we thought he was going to take, if Jason Dominguez is the real deal, this guy better be the real deal. I would love for Dominguez to become this all-star type player. He's got to be that, because the Yankees continue to sell us these prospects as these next big things. So, that all said, as creative as they can get and as much of a path as there is, my faith in Cashman remains approximately 0.0%. I just don't trust this guy, which is why I wanted number 22 to stick around. That's my whole thing. It's not exactly that I don't think the Yankees can get it done going this route, but it's more that I don't think Cashman can get it done. That didn't make sense. Let's rephrase that. It's not that there are no options out there for the Yankees to get it done. It's that the decision-making on the Yankees' part is not great. Yeah. I don't trust Cashman, a.k.a. So with that said, folks, that's what we're looking at right now. Max Fried was the first domino to fall, and hopefully there are much more coming. So with that said, we're going to wrap this episode up right here. No breaks, no promos, no trivia tonight, no parlay. This is all we got. We're just talking a little Yankees. And with that said, we're going to head out episode 759, or is this 758? This was 758, so ignore that. I don't know why. Let's fix that. That was there the entire episode. Great. Episode 758 in the books. I appreciate you all tuning in. And I'm not sure when the next Yankees episode will be. Maybe it's after they sign or trade for someone else. So we'll see. Life After Soto. No, just said the name. Life After number 22 begins. Appreciate you all. I'll see you in the next show. Later. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.